What's up everybody, it's Cody with Chasing Roost here. Today we're diving into something that's super important, but I think it's often overlooked. It's me adjusting the chain on your dirt bike. Getting this wrong can cause some real problems. A chain that's misaligned, meaning that your axle is not straight, is going to wear out your chain, your sprockets, your sliders quite a bit faster than it should. Too much slack is going to start chewing up the plastic guides. Can also do some other damage there as well. On the other side, if it's too tight, that's going to put a huge load on your countershaft seal, your countershaft bearings, and potentially cause some damage there as well. A tight chain can even make your suspension bind up and feel stiff, and that's not what we're going for. Now you might have heard of the old 3 fingers under the chain rule, but honestly, with the modern bike geometry, that's not always accurate anymore. Your manufacturers give a spec in the owner's manual. You should always check on that. These things come in super handy. I think that everybody should have a cheap caliper in their box. For my KTM here, the spec is 65 to 70 millimeters of slack, measured right behind the end of the chain slider to the bottom of the chain link right here. So though I do have pretty big hands on this bike, 3 fingers is going to get you 54 millimeters of slack. And that's 10 millimeters short of the minimum. I usually use calipers, but recently picked up this chain slider block. It's a go, no-go gauge. It's measured at 68 millimeters, so right there in the middle of that threshold. Got this from guys at 405 Mods, printed these up for me, so thanks guys. So this, if it slides in there, you're good. If it doesn't, you're not good. So pretty easy there. Obviously it doesn't work, we're too tight, so that's a good little tool to keep in the box. So you can go pick those up at the guys at 405 Mods, check them out. Real quick, check this out. I've removed one of the bolts from the linkages so that way the swing arm can move freely without compressing the shock. Notice something here. As we've already established, we've got a little bit over 3 fingers of play here. But as I start to go through the travel of the suspension, right about here, I could feel it get into a pretty good bind. And it's pretty tight right there. Right there is very tight. There's no room for that thing to go. I'm actually kind of stretching the chain to get it to do that thing. I can feel it kind of break over right about here. So you can kind of see it kind of tight, and then it breaks over right there. But even up here, super tight. And so that's just putting a really severe load on your countershaft. And also it's gonna make your suspension feel really stiff because now you're fighting all of this too. So if it's too tight here on the stand, it's definitely gonna bind up on compression. I like to loosen it and then snug it back up just barely, enough for the wheel to not flop around, but loose enough that way the adjusters can still move it. This right here is the chain adjuster bolt. This nut right here locks the bolt in place, keeps it from moving in and out. So the next thing we need to do is loosen this lock nut back off, so that way we have room to adjust. We'll do that for both sides. Notice the markings on our axle block here. There's a marking right here. There's also marks etched in the swing arm here. So ideally, we're using these marks to get this one the same on both sides. And I'll show you a step here in a minute that helps me get it even closer. Turning them out lengthens them. Turning them in shortens them. So since we're trying to put slack into the chain, we're going to push these in. As you make adjustments, your axle block may no longer be touching the adjuster bolts. So you can either push on the back of the wheel to get that to come in, or what I prefer is I'll throw a rag in there and roll that wheel backwards, which pulls that into place. And when you check this, you always want to make sure your blocks are seated all the way up against your adjusters. Now we're basically in spec, according to both the tick marks and the slack here in the chain. Now the one thing I want to do to make that even more exact is I want to take some set of calipers and I want to measure on a place that's consistent on both sides. I have noticed that sometimes there's a little bit of difference on that. I don't know if it's the bike or if it's just the way my eyes work, but doing this will help me to kind of make sure that I'm getting them the same on both sides exactly right. Right here, you'll notice I'm about 1 millimeter shy of being where I need to be. So I'll make that adjustment and double check it. Making sure my axle is pulled tight every time. That looks good on this side. Looks good on this side. I like it. If everything's good, you can go ahead and torque it down. KTM calls for 80 Newton meters of torque here. Chris Kiefer calls for 75. I'm doing 75. After the axle nut is torqued, now I'll go ahead and tighten up these lock nuts. I don't want to do it before it's torqued because sometimes when you tighten these up, it'll make these just slightly longer. So I want it to be more jammed in there instead of affecting where my spacing is here. So I'll hold the 10 mil in place so I'm not affecting the length of it, and then we'll just tighten that up. I'm going to do both sides. I think, man, that looks really loose, but that is spec right there. And that's really, I mean, that's more than, that's all 4 of my fingers and then a little bit. So it seems like a lot, but when you actually could put it through the stroke of the suspension, that's what we're going to take. And that's really all there is to it. A few simple tools, a few minutes, and you're done. And one final thought, chains do stretch, but most of the time it's when they're brand new. And again, whenever they're nearing the end of their life. A good chain in the middle of its lifespan shouldn't need major frequent adjustments. If you find yourself adjusting your chain constantly, it might be getting worn out. I hope this helps you guys out. If you have any questions, drop them below. Like the video if it was helpful. Subscribe to Chasing Roost for more. Thanks for watching, and keep chasing Roost.